Pitch number 873.2. We need orchestration. We need a little machine, a little app, a little code, a little magic spell of orchestration. Light orchestration, because we all know you cannot herd cats. How's this? When we came here to America, we brought the sins of our fathers with us, and we perpetrated those sins on others, and we have continued to do so. And right now, there are a lot of sins being perpetrated at the highest levels of our governance. And the only way to get through this is to get to what we want on the other side. We don't have to get all the way there, but we have to figure out a way to communicate with crystal clear clarity in a consensus-driven way. And we need to do it locally in our communities, just amongst people we know. And then whatever ideas come out from that for our communities are put forth, and people can discuss and elevate, and it will allow us to cherry pick the best ideas from every corner of our country, custom made to serve the people there. And then we elevate the ideas through a person, because we still have a representative democracy, but they come carrying our will in their hands. And then we need to decide, do we want to negotiate on this or not? You know, we don't all have to agree on everything, but if we can boil things down to brass tacks and brass tacks, I think we'll be a lot happier. And because we don't have a way to elevate or coalesce or amalgamate our shared thoughts, our system will remain broken until we do. And I have a long list of tools that we could perhaps apply, balms. And one of my balms is a testimonial. And a testimonial can come in many different ways, because we do live in a media-driven space. We have our tags, we have our... How about this? Instead of a hierarchy of people governing us, we create a hierarchy of what is important to us. And I'll stop that there. How's this? When we came here to America, we brought the sins of our fathers with us, and we perpetrated those sins on others, and we have continued to do so. And right now, there are a lot of sins being perpetrated at the highest levels of our governance. And the only way to get through this is to get to what we want. Now, here is my personal opinion about how I boil it down. because we are impassioned by the way that we experience, let's call it the third party. So we're going to call the first party the planet. The second party is us. And when I say planet, we can also look at that as nature, or maybe you can come up with something else. And then the third thing is the great mystery, or the unknown. And we all have this, if we are conscious and aware of it, that there is this question hanging in the air about how did we come to be here on this planet? Now that we can look all the way down, and we can look all the way up, and we see a lot of things that don't comport with our early spiritual and religious experiences. And so I want to lay a couple layers on you, because I am one digging dog that likes to chew on bones from the past. It's just something in me. I can't explain it. Well, maybe I can. Wouldn't it be amazing if you had a parrot on one shoulder and a parrot on the other, or any kind of birds you want, and one of them whispered the truth into your ear, even if you didn't understand it, and the other one whispered things that were custom made and honed carefully over time, studied even, in order to adjust the knobs of your desire, fear, emotion. Imagine if you woke up one day and you realize that everyone that has a message for you has an agenda. And sometimes that agenda is good. Sometimes it is bad. Sometimes it is a bad agenda coming through a good person. Sometimes it's a good agenda coming through a bad person. And it becomes a lot to sort out. And you have no choice but to do your due diligence. Due diligence. And I think that if we're not gonna, if the people that are leading us right now have decided that the entirety, essentially, of the system that we have built up over 240 some years is over. And it's our choice what we do with this fact. Now, there's a lot of information I would like to see right now about our government, and I haven't tried to look, but it would be nice if when they cut people, they would tell us, what will the ripple effect of this be? And then they can put us on red alert, orange alert, yellow alert, so on and so forth. Green alert being your funding is not cut. Red alert being this entire thing is gone. The people that ran it are gone. All of your contacts, all of the information you relied on, all of the programs you relied on, all of the money that it's just gone. You're not going to get reimbursed. It's never coming back. We've decided that we don't want to do that. That's what we need. If this is how it is, that's what we need. We need to be able to plan for our future, for things that are going to crop up from this 3 weeks down the road, 5 weeks down the road, 6 months down the road, 2 years down the road. You know, a lot, and this has irritated me for a long time, and I'm glad maybe it's gone because I hadn't thought about it this way. There's kind of an unholy alliance that goes on where we, the taxpayers, pay for research to be done at the federal level through grant giving and so on and back into the system. And then a lot of times that information gets swallowed up, bought, or whatevered by some international corporation. And in fact, if you go to a college, usually the ones that are quite successful, and you look around the edge of the campus, it'd be interesting maybe to see what corporations are feeding at the edge of the campus. That's the trough. That's where you get your dinner, right? What's that old saying? Flee to the wilderness, the one within, if you can find it. Utah Phillips. So among other things, I really like words. And I have this whole list of words that sound the same, but mean completely different things. And one of my favorite examples is prophets, money, and prophets, spiritual leaders. Think about that for a second. It's all about context, right? Well, and if it's spelled, you can tell the difference. But what if you don't ever see it written? It's just spoken to you, and there's no context. Alms for the prophets. Isn't that funny? Because I like to remember that we didn't always read or write. Actually, many of us didn't read or write until very recently. Now, a lot of people have opinions. I would argue that we are so interconnected with the rest of the world that things that happen in one place affect everybody else. Maybe small, but it's a ripple. And the problem, too, is that right now, what we have going through our legal system, going through our spiritual systems, through our financial systems, through our non-for-profits, and through our own governance, is the equivalent of asteroids hitting us over and over again. Flaming piles of shit asteroids. But if there's one thing I know what to do with, it's shit. I'm like a connoisseur, actually, of manure. I don't know if it's because I grew up around it or just life experience, but I'm pretty good at sniffing out bullshit in particular. I'm also good at sniffing out hog shit as well as hogwash. I can sniff out a chicken shit like you wouldn't believe. I'm deeply familiar with excrement. As such, and given that, there's a few things you need to know about me. These are just little things I picked up that, well, this is a whole nother thing. Two things, and if I forget one, you can hold me to it. I would like an operator's guide to you. And in exchange, I will give you an operator's guide to me, so that when you come to communicate with me, if ever that may be, you know where I'm going to go ahead and lay my wounds bare. I'll show you right where they're at. I'll hand you the salt, and I'll cut a lemon. And then we'll see what you do, right? The funny thing is, though, is that I don't need you to put salt and lemon in my wounds, because I've already done it. I am but ashes and dust. I'm not good at sitting still, so I'm a wanderer. I'm a seeker. I'm a digger. And I found the answers for me about why things are the way they are. Why are we starving in Eden? And speaking of gardens, this crossed my mind just today, and I think I had thought it before a while ago and didn't write it down, or it got lost in the flow. Garden. Break it apart. Say it. Put it in a sentence. Simplify our language. Garden. Last week came in, don't leave the garden. Don't leave the garden. Don't leave the garden. I'm doing my best. Is somebody trying to force me out? Jesus. Maybe that message isn't for me. Maybe it's for you. There is a darkness. Now, that was a long pause. I'm guessing you had some thoughts. Why don't you write them down? There is a darkness. Is it too woke to explore that? Can we explore it as if it's a multifaceted crystal we hold in our hands? And the crystal has as many facets in it as we have perspectives. So, darkness. It is of my opinion, my personal opinion. And in fact, I'll even put this in unreliable sorceress. That's how far afield you might find this offering. It is apparent to me that we have very short lives and we don't know very much, but we've learned quite a bit in the last 100 or so years, which is a shockingly short amount of time and a massive amount of change. And seeing as it is, of my opinion, that we are reaching planetary boundaries, the planet cannot support the amount of, let's call it, electrochemical creativity that we exhibit as a species. I would argue that there's actually a huge population of people that aren't all that interested in the future that some people are painting. As such, it's incumbent on them to identify a lifestyle that they would prefer to adhere to. And I think it would be very interesting for us to know how many of us are thinking about changing what we consume, where we consume it, how we consume it, so on and so forth. I would be very interested for us to see that information. You know, one of the things that's going to come from the opening of the government is that our collective data will be potentially used in an AI to manipulate us further, as far as I'm concerned, as I think that anyone with a message has an agenda. And since I'm sitting here saying that, and since I enjoy exploring my own hypocrisy, we're going to do that one next. So, what is my agenda? I wish to play in the dirt. And I wish to do it in such a way that life springs from my every caress. I don't have children, but I'm a mother of millions. What is my agenda? My agenda is to find the pathways through the dark wood so that we may stand in the sun on the other side. What is my agenda? So I thought about it, and I thought two things. Because of the choices I made, I have learned that I can live on almost nothing compared to like a regular person. And it's interesting because it's very freeing. And one of my agendas is to change the way we think about the thing that we call money. I've always had trouble with money. And then one day, someone said, money is creativity in physical form. Excuse me? Creativity in physical form. Huh. I get down with that. So I think about it differently now. But I also think about it, we're a lot more than money. We're so much more than money. And I want to explore a system that, accounts for more than money. Because, I don't know, it's just kind of, Anyway, I look at it like knowledge and expertise, time, supplies, money. One of the things that you learn when you start digging around is you start to understand long time. If you're into archaeology or geology or, even dinosaurs, all that kind of thing, you have a different perspective on time. I think it's a good idea to always keep that sort of crystalline object in your hand and note how many perspectives you can have on a given issue. You need to exercise your mind. Speaking of minds, Imagination. Imagination. Break it apart. Imagine, nation. Apply balm or knowledge or weight on the scale that you were not able to read or write, likely, up until very recently, in the long arc of history. And that words, well, what's that old saying? The word is God. There's two ways to take that, you know. I took the path less traveled. There is a darkness, unreliable sorceress, that is being extruded, birthed, experiencing an exorcism. Do you know why? Because we can read and write. Because we created laws to protect ourselves from the insert your personal list of entities. Now, what is happening is that as we've gained power, as democracy as an idea has taken hold in a world that was formerly led by, dictators, kings, queens, monarchs, whatever. It's always had for a long time been that way, right? Where we sacrifice our lives, our land, our resources, our bodies to achieve someone else's dream. That's how it worked, far as I can tell. And now we don't have to do that anymore. And it's upsetting to a lot of people. And the hierarchies know that we don't believe them anymore, and that we certainly don't need them anymore. But we do need structures. And I think it's high time that we look to nature to see what she has to offer in terms of organizational structures for our governance that is being torn asunder and fought over and bought and dug through and sold off and this and that. It's being sliced and diced by the biggest, most powerful men in the world. They've seized our government for themselves, and it was all preordained that they were going to come in and do this, and that, big JB is going to take over shipping, right? Because that's his whole thing. And, EM over there, he really wants to go to Mars. And so that's, you gotta have a lot of resources to do that. You gotta have a lot of money to go to Mars. He may be the richest man in the world, but it ain't fucking enough to get him to Mars. He needs our help. He needs our money to do it. He needs our data to have his dream, right? His AI, robot Mars dream. But I'm not really interested in that dream. I'm certainly don't intend to pay for it. Which is nice to think about how little money I make. And not that I make necessarily, but, well, I don't make a lot of money, but how little money I pay myself. Shit. They'll be all right. Because I have been able, over the years, to learn to meet many of my own needs. Spiritual, emotional, intellectual, so on and so forth. And so I don't have a need to dream that dream with that person. And I certainly don't have a need to put my money toward it. I think that they're gutting the CIA. And so I was just thinking, I wonder if that website will be available. Along with all of our national treasures. At any rate, including our gold, I guess there's going to be an inspection of the gold at Fort Knox. So, keep an eye on that, because I'm not trading our fucking gold for some Doge, okay? Back to the CIA. I mean, what are we doing here? It needs to become the Citizens Intelligence Agency. There'll still be something left there when this whole thing implodes. But what we're seeing, it's not a rising architecture. It's a falling architecture. It's the power has already collapsed. It just hasn't hit the bottom yet. And so the triangle is inverting. It's collapsing down through. In people's minds, people were already irritated at the government for a lot of reasons. Not the ones that are being used now, but other ones. At any rate, so what's going to happen, though, as this collapses? Because, listen, democracies are not easy to get into. There are people in this country, you can pay to get in here. I don't remember if it's 50,000 or $500,000 or something like that, but there's a special visa that if you invest that money into a up-and-coming business, that you then get a freebie. I was thinking to myself, wouldn't it be nice if those people funded the people that are immigrating that are poor, that are refugees? Maybe that would be a better use, because then that would take that cost somewhat off of us until people can get up and running. And the fact of the matter is that I know that some people like to pretend that if you've been here a few generations, you're not an immigrant. But I live in a small town, and you could have lived here for 50 years. And if somebody's old enough, they'll be like, well, they're not from here. Well, they've been here for 50 years. Yeah, but they were born over in blah, blah, blah. Or his grandmother came here and blah, 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 you know, that kind of thing. So my point is that it's a global world. There's no taking it back. Pandora is out of the box. We're aware of everyone now. Like, everyone's accounted for. The indigenous people are accounted for. You're accounted for. I'm accounted for. We're all accounted for. But we don't all want to be owned. I don't know how to put it more clearly. There is a darkness, and you can put the energies of war and chaos and abuse on one side of the scale, and on the other side you can put, I'll put a man there. His name is Previn Carrion, and his question to men in particular is, what is masculinity without put in 3 things? Get your paper out, write it down. What is masculinity without 1, 2, 3? Oh, seriously, get them in mind. Here we go. Sex, aggression, and women. If you have thoughts on the matter, if you could do a testimonial, if you could get in touch with him, this is where it's at for me. Because what is happening is that democracies have gained enough power, and we have enough communications now, and communications channels are no longer clear. They're muddied. There's smoke in the air. There's dust. There's all manner of efforts to keep everyone confused, unsure, unstable. And the Citizens Intelligence Agency can help us do 2 things: gather information, and on the other end of it is output of good ideas, depersonification of the political arena, where the best ideas are put out there and we simply upvote them. And when we have a new issue, everybody gets their say, and everything is logged, and then it tabulates where we're at. And this can all be interactive. It can all be swipey swipe, clickety clack. We got this. We got this. But we have to build the machine. We got to build. We got to make the magic spells. We got to write the code. We need it to be perfectly clear to everyone what it is, what it looks like, you know, how we're doing it. We know what the rules are. Complete, crystal clarity and transparency. I have an agenda. There is a darkness. Pick up a flashlight. Start looking. You may find the answer is in yourself. What is in us is magnified in the world. What we pay attention to, what we elevate. We came to this country, we murdered people. We thought we were fleeing domination, and then we recreated a system of domination. And we created people to dominate us. And that's exactly what they're doing. Now, I'm of the opinion that for a large group of people, we would rather contend with our own internalized hypocrisy than magnify it into the collective by externalizing it. Got to do something with it. Get a flashlight. Explore the abyss of self, even for a moment. I have an agenda. There is a darkness. Pick up a flashlight. Start looking. You may find the answer is in yourself. What is in us is magnified in the world. What we pay attention to, what we elevate. We came to this country, we murdered people. We thought we were fleeing domination, and then we recreated a system of domination. And we created people to dominate us. And that's exactly what they're doing. Now, I'm of the opinion that for a large group of people, we would rather contend with our own internalized hypocrisy than magnify it into the collective by externalizing it. Got to do something with it. Get a flashlight. Explore the abyss of self, even for a moment. Now, what is going to happen when this changes? Who is going to rise to power exactly? Seeing as we have a once in a Pluto opportunity to reimagine our governance and our government, I think that we should take the opportunity to do so. So I imagine something very different, but very familiar, but not something either side has ever utilized in any way I'm aware of. It's a pyramid, but it's a pyramid of human attainment, right? It's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And down at the bottom, it says food, water, shelter, clothing, air, that kind of thing, right? Base needs, base realities. And then as you go up, education, time to pursue one's own, things, spiritual attainment, so on and so forth. At any rate, the only area I am really concerned with is this space down at the bottom where it says, food, fuel, fiber, housing. That's my concern. That's my agenda. And actually, my agenda lays one step below that. Let's call them cobblestones. They used to be known as bedrocks, but they don't exist anymore. And that is the fruits of nature. You see, we ate them all, and we cut them all down to make room for all of our roads and our fields and all of our own things. But bill come due, right? It's not a planet that looks kindly upon taking and not giving back. What's that old saying? Do unto others as they would have done unto you. I have a new one to add. Do unto others as they would have done to them. Which brings me back to that operator's manual. Did you give that a... So in my little cobblestone area, I like to put the word biodiversity. If you have biodiversity, all of the things on the bottom can be attained easily. Which leaves then all the rest of the things for us to worry, fret, and be concerned about. That way we can continue to argue endlessly over religious belief systems and scientific theories and so on and so forth. But at least we'll be fed and clothed and housed. And it'll be quite lovely. In fact, can you imagine it? How is your mind doing? What is your mind doing? What is your mind doing? My mind is thinking about game stop. My mind is thinking about the fact that I listened to a guy on YouTube read Warren Buffett's letter to his shareholders and then go through a bunch of charts about how many companies Warren Buffett had sold off, how much cash they had, what they were invested in, so on and so forth. I also heard, unreliable sources, same guy though, I think, that Warren divested from a lot of different shares and bought some alcohol, bought into some whiskey or who knows what. I don't know. I'm not a shareholder. You know what we are, though? We are shareholders in our country. Yep, it's ours. It is our land. And yeah, we have a lot of bodies buried that we need to dig up and attend to properly. With dignity. And we need to step it up a notch. We need to know where the line is. We need to be chanting the same chants. We need orchestration. We have to build our metaphorical orchestra. We have to take what we had in our government and in our governance, run it through the prism of things working the way we want them to, and money going where we want it, elevating the good ideas, and then we project it out onto a blank screen, so to speak. And then we have our future. It's not perfect, but a lot of the things that we don't like are gone now. And so all we have to do is grab the people that just got laid off and lost their jobs, find out, hey, do you want to sit down at a table and decompress, and we'll make sure you're fed and taken care of? I'm happy to donate grain. I got nothing to do with it. I just lost my contract too. And I'm also very concerned about people that might lose their farms or their land because they had a contract with us and it's being broken. And we don't have any control over that. But I really don't want to see people losing their homes and their farms because I think what we wanted was a conversation. Participatory budgeting is what I call it. It's boring, but it involves pie charts, and it involves us looking at what are our own costs. Like, how much am I spending on energy every month? How much of my income do I spend on energy and transmission of energy? Listen, here's the deal. We're in a global game of high-stakes poker. And we are not sitting at the table. We are getting ready to take on the shrapnel from it, okay? Because remember, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. We are on the menu. We are on their menu. They want our data. They got it. They got our state secrets. Gone. Who knows where that shit went? Have you looked into these 6 hackers that they hired to do this? Terrifying. One of them had an aunt that was in the KGB, unreliable sources. Yeah, it's upsetting. It's beyond. But, here we are. That said, it seems like there's probably other countries that know more about our secrets than we, the American people, do. And that is upsetting as well. That said, can't we demand full transparency? Some of it they aren't going to tell us, but I want numbers. I want line items. I want a tree of money. I want to see where it all goes. I want us all to see where it all goes. And then I want us to sit down and talk about it. Biodiversity is the bedrock of humanity. We clear on that? And as a spokesperson for planet Earth, I think you're already picking up on the news. Mama ain't happy. Ain't nobody happy. If it's just bad wiring that we manufacture rules and rulers. Some rules are good, though. You know what they say about the building code. It's written in blood.